Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Kieran. Joining me in person today from Long Island, New York is Austin Davidson.
Heyo!
Today we're going to be looking at the running back prospects that the Steelers could be targeting in the NFL draft. Let me back up. It's Season 2, Episode 2. Moving forward, like I said, we're going to be looking at some running back prospects, and we're also going to be taking a look at some news that the Steelers have been involved in lately. So first and foremost, some recent news. The Steelers re-signed tight end / fullback hybrid David Johnson and are reportedly close to a long-term deal with Le'Veon Bell. Austin, what do you think about both of these?
Well, I'm a little indifferent to the David Johnson signing. He's not bad, but he's just been like the third or fourth string tight end that might not even make the 53-man when roster cuts begin. He could have to fight for his job with Xavier Grimble or even just maybe the Steelers want to go with only 3 tight ends and really cut it down. But I hope he makes it. For Bell, it's exciting. Just hoping for like a 4-year deal or so to make sure he stays in Pittsburgh for a while. What do you think of this news?
Well, I like the signing of Johnson. He knows the team and he knows the system. He's a pretty good blocker, and he's actually kind of an underrated receiver when he needs to be. In case you remember, he actually caught a 4th down pass in that game in Buffalo last season. In a pinch, he can play fullback too, which he did in his first in Pittsburgh. He's not flashy by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm glad that he's returning. And as far as Bell goes, they still have some time to get a deal done. There's no need to rush for now, but hearing some news this early in the process is still good to hear. And as of last week, the Steelers re-signed quarterback Landry Jones for 2 years. I believe it was $2.2 million, so a relatively cheap option. Was this a good move, Austin?
I'd say based on the quarterbacks available in this class and the money he took, I suppose. Still, I really wanted the Steelers to start turning elsewhere and try to develop a quarterback, even a late round one under Roethlisberger. Still, it's not out of the question that the Steelers still draft one because Zach Mettenberger's job isn't safe. So, what do you think about the Landry Jones re-signing?
I don't think it was a great choice, but I think it was probably the best option available to the Steelers. Like you mentioned, it's not a great quarterback draft class, and there aren't any good free agent quarterbacks to pick up like a Bruce Gradkowski from 2013. Jones isn't a popular player in Pittsburgh, but he does know the offense, and he's been a capable backup the last couple of seasons. I think the Steelers should look at quarterbacks this year, but I don't think they'll draft one this year now. I think they'll look for one to eventually replace Roethlisberger next year. Now, some big news in free agency losses. The Steelers lost Lawrence Timmons to the Dolphins and Marcus Wheaton to the Bears, respectively. How will you remember their times in Pittsburgh?
Losing Lawrence Timmons was a huge blow and somewhat surprising. Sadly, we're going to have to move on from this. He will leave behind a legacy of throwing up on the field often. But seriously, I feel like the Steelers lose some toughness. The guy has played in 115 consecutive games, and that includes playing through injury, which was turf toe last season. And he's also been the team's leading tackler for the past 4 seasons, and 5 seasons ago he was the second leading tackler behind Larry Foote. So it's going to be a rough without him. For Marcus Wheaton, I'm not as torn apart. I completely expected this. But I will forever remember his 200-yard game against Seattle 2 years ago, and that's what I'm going to miss, that flash of being a great receiver. And I wish him and Lawrence Timmons the best of luck.
So, as far as my thoughts with Timmons, he's been my favorite Steeler since Ryan Clark went to Washington in the 2013 offseason. It's hard to believe that Mike Tomlin's first pick is leaving after spending his first 10 seasons in the black and gold. Someone that I think really never got fully appreciated for all the things he did in his time here. A man who played practically every snap for the better part of 3.5 seasons from the second half of 2012 through 2015. But seeing him leave makes the inside linebacker position a priority now. It would have been stupid for him to not take the money that he got from the Dolphins. I don't think anyone was expecting the Steelers to match that kind of offer, so I think he definitely made the right choice for him. And as far as Marcus Wheaton goes, I also liked him, but I think his time in Pittsburgh is going to be remembered for inconsistency and missed opportunities. His first and last years in Pittsburgh were mired by injuries, and in 2014 and 15, he showed moments of brilliance and question marks. Wheaton really had it going, though, in the last 10 games of 2015, starting with that breakout game in Seattle you were talking about. I would venture to argue that he was playing at a near Pro Bowl level in the latter half of the 2015 season. I was surprised he got $11 million from the Bears, but I'm glad that he's getting another chance, and I think he can show us some good things with a good quarterback next season, which the Bears don't have, but you never know. Maybe he can surprise. Moving on, the Steelers waived running back Carlos Williams. Was this a good decision?
I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to believe that the lack of interest from teams when he first got cut from the Bills is telling enough. Apparently, reports were that his work ethic just isn't there, and then, of course, there's a suspension. So I'm okay with this. He never got off the practice squad anyway, and hopefully he could get everything back together to be able to play at a high level again, because the 1 year with the Bills, he was fantastic. What do you think?
This depends for me on if D'Angelo Williams is re-signed and or if another back is drafted. He was a low-cost option that offered some upside, but it seems clear that the Steelers didn't really see much potential in him when his suspension was announced. Hopefully his career isn't over because he does have that upside, and I think he can still contribute to a team if he decides to push for it. Moving on, as of this morning, inside linebacker free agent Dante Hightower is set to meet with the Steelers. And in other news, Jarvis Jones, the Steelers' former first-round pick in 2013, is meeting with the Cardinals. There is also reported mutual interest between Jones and the Steelers in a potential re-signing. What do you make of this? Start with Hightower.
I was surprised to hear the Steelers going after such a big free agent. Honestly, I like this move, though. It would fill the hole that Timmons has left and give us more depth. In terms of Jones, though, I really have no interest in him returning, and I hope he gets signed by the Cardinals. If he has to come back, it will basically just be for depth and should be a rather small deal. What do you make out of the two linebackers?
Well, as far as Hightower goes, he won't come cheap, but I think he'd be a great addition with the loss of Timmons, and the Steelers do have the cap space to get a deal done right now. You look at the loss of Timmons and the money that he freed up. Vince Williams is a nice option at the 3-4, but the thing he offered last year was great depth in case Shazier or Timmons was hurt, and that's something the Steelers don't have right now. So it would be a tough deal, but I think he's a pretty good player, maybe not as athletic as Shazier or as durable as Timmons, but I think he's definitely good enough to play in Pittsburgh. As far as Jones go, to my knowledge, the Arizona Cardinals run more of a 4-3, so I think he'd probably be a better fit there, whether he plays inside or outside linebacker there, as long as he doesn't have to rush the passer. I am surprised that the Steelers have shown interest in him, considering everything that's happened in the past couple of seasons where he has been benched midway through the year due to poor play. I wouldn't mind bringing him back to camp on a veteran minimum deal, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he chooses to sign with Arizona should he be offered a contract. So that's what I think of that. So now we're going to move on to the running back position. Austin, I'm sure you've seen this already, but if you want to take a quick glance at the current position overview, can you give me a brief little evaluation on what the Steelers have at running back?
Basically, all we have right now is Le'Veon Bell and Fitzgerald Toussaint. They're the only ones that have been on the 53-man roster that are not free agents. Obviously, D'Angelo Williams is there, but he is currently a free agent and hasn't been re-signed yet. So that's basically all we got. And then we got a bunch of practice squad guys like Browns Duke and not Gus Bradley. I can't remember his name. It was Gus Johnson. My bad. And that's really it. But to evaluate what we have. Bell is really all we need at the moment, assuming he signs his franchise tag and or agrees to a long-term contract. In my eyes, he's the number 1 or 2 running back in the league right now, and easily top 3 for hopefully everyone else. So we are pretty set in this position, again, assuming he signs his contract. After that, the only other running back signed to have played in a regular and or postseason game is Fitzgerald Toussaint. Personally, I'm a Fitzgerald Toussaint fan. Probably bad to say this, but I liked what I saw from him 2 years ago against the Broncos. Yes, he fumbled to lose the game, but besides that, I liked how he ran. I mean, everyone's going to have that unlucky fumble. Everyone's going to do bad, but all he has to be is a backup. And honestly, I wouldn't be mad if Steelers gave him an extension. You also have to realize he contributes on special teams. Not well, seeing that the Steelers' special teams this past season wasn't great, but he can be there if necessary. What do you think about the running backs we currently have?
Well, you start from the top. The Steelers have, in my opinion, the most talented running back in the league. They got him on the franchise tag, so now their top offseason priority is to sign him long-term, and it seems like they're making some progress in that. Once you get that done, you have some question marks beyond that. You have only one other NFL player with experience in Fitzgerald Toussaint, who I am also a pretty big fan of. I think he played exceptionally well in the 2015 playoffs, minus his fumble in Denver. He had a pretty key 4th down reception in the playoff, win over the Bengals in that season. He's not great with kick returns, but outside of that, he's a pretty great special teams player. He plays in every facet of special teams as well. He's an underrated pass blocker, he can run hard, and he's actually a good option out of the backfield. He made some nice plays in the season finale against Cleveland last season. I would be confident if Toussaint was the backup to Bell next season, and I think he could surprise some people. And as far as the other guys on the roster goes, I don't know much about them. Brandon Brown Dukes is the only player I was familiar with at all. So I think the running back, the third spot on the running back depth chart could be upgraded this offseason, whether it be through a draft pick or a free agent. So looking at free agents, the only free agent that the Steelers have is D'Angelo Williams. Do you think the Steelers need to take some serious consideration into re-signing him, or what do you think the Steelers should do with him?
Need to, not really. This is a really strong running back draft class, and drafting a rookie even late will save the team money. And also, we can't pretend that D. Will isn't getting older now and he's slowed down a bit. So a rookie would probably be faster and the cheaper option. Also, honestly, like I said, I wouldn't be mad if Toussaint became the backup. But should they re-sign Williams? Personally, I think so. I really like him in the locker room. I think he adds experience, and he's just a good guy, but this is just my opinion. It's not necessary, but for my sake, I would like the Steelers to re-sign him. What do you make of D'Angelo Williams?
They definitely don't need to. When Le'Veon Bell is playing and healthy, the backup running backs barely touch the ball at all. I'm fully confident Fitzgerald Toussaint could replace Williams admirably, but I don't think it would be the worst idea for the Steelers to consider it. Williams has been a hard runner and has a lot of heart and has showed that consistently over the last 2 seasons, in addition to the fact that he doesn't mind being the backup and he still has some tread left in the tires. He's a popular player in the locker room, like you mentioned, and someone that, being a running back over the age of 30, is probably not going to cost very much. Should the Steelers choose not to draft a running back, I think he'd be a great option to re-sign for one more season. You know he's hungry for one more chance to win a Super Bowl. So now, the outlook at the position, what does the draft need for the running back position? Is it medium, low, or is it high?
In my eyes, it's really low. If Le'Veon Bell decides to shock the world and have a Josh Norman situation, then it's a huge need. But for right now, though, it's basically just drafting a backup, and on a scale from 1 to 10, it's about a 3, maybe. For me, if the Steelers choose to draft a running back, it should be done in either the 6th or 7th round. How big of a need is it in your eyes?
It's a pretty low need, seeing as the Steelers have their starter and most likely backup in place already. You aren't usually drafting for a number 3 on the depth chart in the draft. Add into the fact that the draft is full of capable running backs, the Steelers probably won't need to draft one, certainly not one early, that could contribute as a rookie. Don't be surprised if the Steelers are going to look for one between rounds 5 through 7. Free agency need. Did the Steelers really need to pick up any free agents, say, outside of D'Angelo Williams?
Oh, definitely not. I would say there's no good backup running backs in this free agent market this year, at least none that I could think of. Just a lot of big names like AP, Jamal Charles, and Latavius Murray. What do you think?
Yeah, outside of the potential for re-signing D'Angelo Williams, there should be no need for the Steelers to go after one. With their starter and backup in place, I'd even be okay with an undrafted free agent coming in next season as the third stringer if they choose not to sign one. So, why don't we get started with some of the running backs that the Steelers could be targeting? You want to give me your first running back, Austin?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel. Just for warning, Curtis Samuel could be drafted as a wide receiver instead, and a lot of people are saying that. But I think he has potential as a running back. He is from Ohio State, and he's an odd player because of his versatility. He's actually had to do his combine drills with the wide receivers, even though he said he was ready to play either position. That in itself has a lot of upside, and he is drafted upside if he is drafted and becomes the running back. To have another pass-catching running back on the Steelers would be exactly like what the Falcons have going on this past season. And the problem here is he may not be taken as a running back due to his size. He's only 5'11" and 196 pounds, which, due to his weight, is relatively small for an NFL running back, which may force him into a receiver role if he's drafted. But then most of his other weaknesses come as a receiver, partially because he hasn't really been analyzed as a running back all too much, but the one that's going to affect him the most as a running back is his non-liquid movements. He's very stiff or linear, and that's a problem for him. Also, he doesn't have much blocking experience, and with his size, you could probably guess that he would be destroyed if asked to take on a linebacker incoming or just help with the defensive line. So, what are his strengths? Well, not only is his speed it's not his speed that's just amazing. His acceleration is phenomenal, where he could stop and then get back to full speed really quickly. He also has 2 years of kick return experience, where the Steelers desperately need help. And finally, due to getting some experience at receiver, he has some real good route running capabilities, so he'd be really good at running routes out of the backfield. So let's hear about your first person.
The first running back I took a look at was Davion Smith out of the University of Michigan. At 5'11", 220 pounds, Davion Smith's actually he fits the mold of a Steelers running back pretty well. A hard physical downhill runner in 4 years for the Wolverines, Smith showed some underrated talent in the highlight tapes and his ability to run the ball, has good vision, and due to the fact that he split carries, the most he ever had in a single season was 181. He never became a household name around the country, and he probably doesn't have too much wear and tear on his body. I saw a lot of things I liked when it came to him running the ball. He had some nice moves and some good vision and power, but he doesn't offer much as a pass receiver and often didn't play on third downs, which is concerning for his draft stock. Smith is likely a late-round draft pick between the rounds 5 through 7 who projects as a depth option for the next year and maybe beyond. He has some upside and could potentially find himself in a similar situation as a Fitzgerald Toussaint in a couple of years. And then who knows? For Steelers fans, Jonathan Dwyer and Isaac Redman were the Steelers' starting running backs for the better part of 2 seasons, and they weren't really anything that special themselves, so you never know what you could be finding in someone like Davion Smith. Who's your second running back, Austin?
My second one is Kareem Hunt from Toledo. He ran a 4.62 40-yard dash. So I'm going to start with his weaknesses after that. Firstly, he's not the fastest guy, as told by his 40-yard dash time. Next, he struggles to re-accelerate after stopping or avoiding defenders, which is his first issue. Then he often tries to put special moves on, like jukes or spin moves. So basically, he tries getting cued a lot at the end of the run instead of finishing with force, which could be bad injury-wise for someone who's already faced a few injuries in the past. Finally, his blocking needs to be touched up on because it's not that good. So now I'll move on to the strengths. What's good about Hunt is, to start, is his frame. He has a muscular legs and a compact body, and he's still extremely agile. So he's really good at making defenders miss with juke moves and spin moves. His ball carry vision is really good. He seems to make quick decisions, and he could bounce the outside effectively because of it. Then he's got really good hands for a running back, making him good for screens and such. So let's move on to your next running back.
My second running back is someone that Pittsburghers should be familiar with. It's the University of Pittsburgh product, James Conner, a fan favorite in Pittsburgh for both what he did on and off the field, a cancer survivor off the field, and a wrecking ball of a back at 6'2", 240 pounds. Conner set a Pitt rushing record in a bowl game his freshman year with 229 rushing yards, followed up by becoming the ACC Player of the Year in 2014. And in 2016, he bounced back from an MCL injury and Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2015 to the tune of 16 touchdowns and 1,000 yards on the ground. Conner is a physically imposing back with a will to win, stronger than any back that I think I've ever seen in college. He did look a step slower this season compared to his 2014 breakout year, and it's possible he may never be that player again. But with that being said, Conner is a tough, physical downhill runner who added a new element in the passing game this season, gaining 300 plus of his career 400 receiving yards just this past season. He's likely going to be a depth option at least this year with the potential to become a short yardage specialist the following season. If he can manage to pick up his speed and slim down a little bit, he could become a full-time starter somewhere in the future. Most mock drafts have him going in the 5th round. Austin, you want to give me the information on your final running back?
The final running back we're going to look at is Joe Mixon from Oklahoma. So the only reason we're looking at this is because of his draft stock plummeting. We saw what happened with Randy Gregory, what was it, last year, 2 years ago? 2 years? Okay. So he might fall really far because of what he did, and that's his biggest problem. I'll start with the reason that he's going to fall in the draft, his character. Mixon had that video of him hitting that girl circle round at the end of 2016. I think it actually happened in 2014, and we've seen how that's gone for a person like Ray Rice or the Giants ex-kicker. And one has to question whether he'll be able to keep his emotions in check on the field if he can't operate as a normal person off. Not to mention the negative attention it will bring to whatever team that drafts him. So, into actual football stuff, Mixon lacks breakaway speed to pull away from oncoming defenders taking an angle at him. Then he tends to carelessly hold the ball from his body. He has fumbled the ball 6 times in 2 seasons at Oklahoma. And finally, due to how tall he is more susceptible to injury, but this is more of a what-if, this could happen situation, so it's just basically looking at things that could possibly happen. You can't see the future. So, on to the positives. The dude was given a first-round grade for purely his football play. He is well-built and muscular, ready to start. He has a good initial burst speed and is able to move laterally very well because he is agile. He shows great anticipation, vision, and patience to set up his blocks as a running back and a returner. Yes, he's also experienced as a returner, so he can contribute on special teams. Mixon has been said to be as dangerous as receiver as he is a running back, for he shows good hand-eye coordination and can keep his speed while catching. Not to mention he has some good route running skills. Then he is hard to take down because he just absorbs hits. He just kind of pushes them off. And finally, he's really young, just turning 21 in July, meaning he could be in the league a long time barring injuries. So he's a really good option. So who is your third running back?
The final running back I looked at for this draft is Elijah McGuire, the running back out of Louisiana Lafayette. He's probably the most athletic back I looked at. Standing at 5'11" and 209 pounds, McGuire does one thing far better than Connor or Smith do, and that's the ability to catch the ball. He can offer teams the ability to be split out wide or catch the ball out of the backfield. He's also the most elusive back of the three and has the ability to turn some quick-hitting plays into a home run. There are concerns about his ability to become a pure running back, as there are looks of him becoming a receiver since he's more of a quote-unquote athlete at this time, because his running back vision could be further developed in the NFL. He's more of a wild card in the sense that you don't know exactly what you're getting, but he also has, in most likelihood, the best upside. As of right now, he's probably more of a third down back, someone who you can play both at receiver and running back, but he has potential to become a better all-around player. The other thing is that third down backs aren't exactly the most important thing in the world, and for that reason, along with his question marks of what position he'll actually play and his ability as a runner, he's probably going to go late in the draft. I'd predict the 7th round, but I've seen some mocks taking him in the 6th. So, Austin, you want to rank the backs that you looked at based on how you think they would fit with the Steelers and the team need?
Yeah, my first one, surprisingly, is Curtis Samuel. I like that he has special teams experience, and he also doesn't have character issues. So he's my favorite. Then number 2 was Joe Mixon, because Joe Mixon has incredible football skills, but he's going to be useless if he's going to be suspended. And then I went third with Kareem Hunt. What was the order of yours?
I really liked what I saw out of Davion Smith from Michigan. I've seen him play a little bit before. When I watch him run the ball, I imagine him being a Steelers running back, and that's not to say that guys like McGuire and James Conner are not. But there's just something about him, the way he runs the ball, that it just makes me think that he's a Steelers running back. Second, I had Elijah McGuire. I really like the upside I see in him, watching him make those home run hitting plays. He's kind of reminds me of what we saw in Dree Archer, although he is a lot bigger than Dree Archer, so he's not going to get flattened by the wind blowing him over. So I think that he's got more upside than that. And lastly, I had James Conner. It's not that I don't think he'd be a good fit or anything, and I'm sure that Steelers and Pitt fans would love to have someone like James Conner on their team. I just don't think they really need someone like Conner on their team, because they already have a couple of running backs in Toussaint and Bell who are probably more considered bruising, at least in Toussaint's case, than the other two backs. So I don't really think they need to pick up another one of those guys. So... Did I ask you?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. So what do you think the Steelers' depth chart will look like at running back next year? Do you think they draft a back, do they sign one, or do they do both?
Well, of course, Bell is going to be the starter. I think D. Will either leaves or retires, leaving Fitzgerald Toussaint to be the backup. And that the Steelers sign an undrafted rookie after the draft, and he makes the final roster. I say the Steelers don't draft a running back. What do you think?
I have the depth chart at Bell as the starter, Toussaint as the backup, and I think a late round pick, probably the 7th round pick, as the third string running back. I think the Steelers are going to try to get a little younger at this position this year with by moving on from D'Angelo Williams, and there are plenty of good backs that the Steelers look at. I wouldn't be upset if the Steelers didn't draft one this year, but I think it'd be nice if they did, and if they don't sign one at the end of end of the draft or draft when, I think D'Angelo Williams would be a nice plan B for one more season. So that'll do it for our show today, unless you have anything else you wanted to add, Austin?
Nope, this should be it.
Okay. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, we have recently changed our username on Twitter and Facebook. So I guess actually I'll back up and I'll start with our email. If you have any questions about the show, feel free to email us at strongerthansteelspodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at stronger_steel and check out our Facebook page. That is Stronger Than Steel Podcast. So that is changed. They are no longer STS Podcast 1. So we appreciate all the support you've given us, and check us out on YouTube and SoundCloud. I will be having that long-awaited top 10 passes video done pretty soon. So looking forward to getting that up there. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back with you next week for the wide receivers.
Goodbye.